guys, it's like 11 p.m. and I just want to talk about why China wants Andrew Yang to win the 2020 presidential candidate elections. Now, when I say China wants Andrew Yang to win, I mean they have incentive or reason to actually manipulate the how the election runs. Now, I don't necessarily mean that they want to hack or tamper with the election system, but I do mean that they have incentive to manipulate the citizens of the United States, whether that's planting, propaganda, or planting these discussions that push for the voting of Andrew Yang. So I think there are two major reasons as to why China would really want Andrew Yang as the president. Number one is Andrew Yang's campaign. So the crux of Andrew Yang's presidential campaign is the introduction of a UBI, or a universal basic income. Now, it's not the introduction of a UBI that China might be interested in, but rather how Andrew Yang goes about implementing this. Because again, UBI of giving all American citizens over the age of 18 $1,000 a month is a lot of money. Now, where does this money come from? Andrew Yang proposes that this money is going to come from taxing these large American private organizations such as Amazon, Google, Facebook, because these companies, especially Amazon, Amazon has paid zero tax, and so just implementing a small tax of again like 10% on a company as large as Amazon would result in what Andrew says is $800 billion. Now, if you apply that to several companies that aren't paying tax, then you're left with this massive amount of money. Now, China might be interested in that because, well, Amazon is one of the world's most valuable companies, and enforcing a tax on them would weaken Amazon's strength. Amazon, being an American company and being weaker, is definitely in China's interest, because China and US definitely have are definitely competing. China doesn't want these American companies to get really large, and likewise America doesn't want these Chinese companies to become very big. So it's definitely in China's interests to reduce the power of these large American organizations, and the introduction of a UBI, or how Andrew will implement this, will weaken Amazon. The second reason I think China has reason to manipulate or wants Andrew Yang to win is that Andrew Yang is Asian. And again, I don't mean to be racist or imply anything, but Andrew Yang, being a child of Asian immigrants, he even though he did grow up in America, I'm sure that he still grew up with some Chinese beliefs or ideologies. Now, unlike Trump, where Trump is extremely against China, if Andrew Yang was president, I think that he'd be a lot more open to listening to what China has to offer, and China would also likely be more open towards what the US would have to say. So I do think that the relationship between China and US would be far stronger with Andrew Yang being president. With Trump, you have the trade wars that isn't going well for either country. And you can see how the trade war was sort of Trump's way of stopping China from growing very strong and supporting sort of the domestic US producers. But all it really ended up doing was hurting both economies, especially the US people. So I think, again, Andrew Yang being Asian, there's likely to be a stronger relationship between US and China. The second of all, Andrew Yang would be weakening the American private organizations, and that would be incentive for China. I think there's enough reason for China to actually spread messages or instigate, whether it be bots or discussions that push and promote Andrew Yang to be president. I don't think they'll likely tamper with the election, because again, that's very, very dangerous, though I'm sure people do. I think they'll find other means of wanting to promote Andrew Yang. That was my 2 cents. It's like midnight, and I've been getting very interested in the politics scene. I used to say that I hated politics. I was politically disengaged. I wanted to stay as far away from politics as I could. But as I grow older, I think you sort of have to, you almost have to learn about politics and about what's happening in the world, because again, politics is just the passing of policies, and certain policies, policies will impact your life, and I think it's beneficial to you to learn about how these policies will affect your life.